سعيد عشت من جديد لفعل ما أريد باسمك قيومي أصحو من نومي بك يحلو يومي وهبتني لسانا ذاكرا وقلبا شاكرا يا خالقي وهبتني لسانا ذاكرا وقلبا شاكرا يا خالقي إنني سعيد عشت من جديد لفعل ما أريد ربي كم أعطيت ولروحي أحييت نورت طريقي ورزقت وعافيت أشعر باطمئنان قلبي فيه آمان ينبض بالإيمان وهبتني لسانا ذاكرا وقلبا شاكرا يا خالقي وهبتني لسانا ذاكرا وقلبا شاكرا يا خالقي إنني سعيد عشت من جديد لفعل ما أريد شكرا لك ربي
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik wa sallim. Jazallahu anna Sayyidina Muhammadan sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa ma wahlahu. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi zidni ilma. Rabbi zidni ilma. Rabbi zidni ilma. Allahumma إنا نسألك حبك ومن يحبك وأمل الذي يبلغنا حبك. O Allah, we ask you for your love and the love of those who love you and the actions that will cause us to attain your love. And O Allah, illuminate our hearts with the light of knowing you and grant us closeness to you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you all doing on this beautiful Thursday morning? And 1 week into Ramadan, how is your Ramadan going? Okay, so Bismillah. Today we are reflecting and going through the name. Alhamdulillah, I am very well. Jazakallah khair for asking. Yes, so today we are reflecting on the name and going through the name of Allah Al-Hasi, the accountant and the sufficient. And Allah says in the Quran, God keeps account of everything. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We are taught as Muslims to pay attention to our actions and our intentions, while understanding that Allah is the one who quantifies them. We know that the reward for one good deed is multiplied by Him at least 10 times, up to 700 times or more, while a bad deed is counted as just one sin. Allah is Al-Hasib. So we know that we've gone through that many times. How if even if we just make an intention, we get the reward just for the intention, even if we didn't do the action. And if we had an intention and we went ahead with um, a good intention and to do a good deed, and we went ahead with doing it, the reward is multiplied. It's not just one reward, it's multiplied, and it can be multiplied at least 10 times up to 700 times or more. That's Allah who quantifies and who decides um, how much He wants to reward us. And that if we have an intention to do something bad and we don't do the action, but we had the intention, if we don't do it, we still get one reward just because we didn't do it. We are rewarded for not doing it. And if we go ahead and do it, we only get one bad deed. Like it's only written as one bad deed, it's not multiplied. And this is the mercy of Allah, and Allah is Al-Hasib, the accounter. Hasib is increase, an aggrandizement of the verbal noun hasib, which means one who takes account. Hasib encompasses the meanings of counting, calculating, being sufficient, and honor. For example, in the Quran, Allah says of the gifts of paradise, a recompense from your Lord, a sufficient, hasiban gift. So, a recompense from your Lord, a sufficient gift. The word used for account is hisab. Allah says in the Quran, but when you are offered a greeting, respond with a better one, or at least return it. God keeps account for everything. Hasiba. Thus, at one level, Allah tells us that He is Hasib over everything, meaning that He accounts for everything, even the tiniest of deeds. We sometimes make the mistake of belittling our deeds, whether good or bad. We belittle a sin because it is small, or think that doing a small good deed does not amount to anything, so we forego it or do it mindlessly. Knowing that Allah is Al-Hasib should make us aware that no matter the size of our deeds, Allah takes them into account. Of course, we should try to do marvelous, grand good deeds and avoid the greatest sins. But in a world where people's greatest achievements are celebrated on social media, we should not forget the small deeds that people might consider insignificant, which are nonetheless appreciated and loved by Allah. Similarly, we must try to avoid the so-called minor sins because, as one scholar said, mountains are made up of small stones. Allah says in the Quran, whoever has done an atom's weight of good will see it, but whoever has done an atom's weight of evil will see that. So nothing that we do is too small, whether it's good or bad. And sometimes we can think something is so small, you know, like, for example, I just thought, sometimes you give something, you have leftovers, and you give it to a beggar, or you give it to someone, and like you don't think anything of it because for you it's just the leftovers, you're not going to eat it. It's not something major, or you have some leftovers that you're not going to give anyone, but maybe you give to the birds, or you feed the birds all the time, and you just think, oh yeah, this is like a small thing. But you don't know if it's really small in the eyes of Allah or not. Because in the eyes of Allah, in the sight of Allah, it can be a big thing. So we should always be aware of it because it shouldn't make us like complacent, like, oh, and we shouldn't always like even minimize, even to ourselves that like, that's what we always say, it's just something small. Sometimes you give someone something and like they're so thankful for it and it's like, it's something small. But you don't understand how appreciative they are of that something small. Maybe to you it's something small, but to them it's like great. In the same way, uh, to Allah, you don't know, like you're just like, this is, you give someone way on like on the road, and then you just think, you don't even like you're not even conscious about it because it's just like one of those things. But those are the actions that Allah can really love, and those can weigh very heavy on your soul. And Allah, when He He's we think when measure, we measure by quantity, you know, but for Allah it's not quantity. He measures in weight. So it's like this was weightier. So we don't know which of our deeds are weightier or not, but he measures in weight, not in quantity. So we think, oh, the more we do, it's better because it will weigh heavier on our scale. No, Allah's measuring is in weight. So it's obviously our sincerity or whatever, how much, he appreciated our one small thing, because we can do a million things. We can say, okay, yeah, because we think Allah measures in quantity, we'll be even reading, like when we read Adhkar or whatever it is. And I'm just going to say this here also, even when we read dhikr, we always have the number. And even like obviously, even on the group, sometimes like we have the number like 1,000 istighfar or whatever it is. But you always notice, like I'll always put there like do what's manageable for you. And the count is not about you just doing the count. The count, when I put like the amount of how many, it's more just to keep us accountable, you know. Because if we just say, a lot of the times this is what happens when we just say read istighfar, we don't end up reading istighfar because we know we need to read istighfar, but we just don't take out the time to actually read istighfar because we're just saying read istighfar. But when we're saying, oh, read 100 istighfar, then you're like, oh yeah, I need to read 100. But it doesn't matter whether you read 100 or you read 20. That really doesn't matter. The amount doesn't matter. It's more just for accountability purposes that I will add account in the amount. So even there, even when we're reading dhikr, we can say, oh yeah, I need to read. And this is something that like I had to like keep reminding myself, especially, I don't know, I think in this week, because somehow I've become more slower with actually doing my dhikr. So I'm finding myself doing it less than I used to do. And now obviously like I'm getting a bit impatient with myself, and like why, like, but you could do so much before. And then I have to remind myself all the time, like, it's not about the amount. It's really not about the amount. It's like about your consistency. You're still making the effort to do it. So we all struggle with that. We're like, oh, I could do so much, whatever. So when we're doing dhikr, we'll be like, yeah, I have to do like 1,000 And we think that the thousand is what matters so much, and that's the only way that it's going to weigh so heavy on our scale, and it's going to give us whatever we need or whatever. But that's not it. We can read one astaghfirullah, and that can be weightier. Like when Allah measures it, the one can be weightier than the like the 1,000. So that's how Allah measures. He measures in weight and not in quantity, right? So we don't know. So we should just make our intention should always be sincere. Okay, today, if I couldn't reach 1,000, but I read 500, it doesn't matter. Let me ask Allah, like, Ya Allah, you accept it from me and, you know, um, make it weighty and beneficial and whatever it is. So we don't know what's loved by Allah, right? All of our deeds will be reckoned on the day of judgment. And thus, Umar ibn al-Khattab, radiallahu anhu, famously said, take yourself to account before you are taken to account. This means that we should be vigilant over ourselves and our actions and try to improve. We should not be disheartened when we find that we make many mistakes, because while Allah is Al-Hasib, He is also the most forgiving to those who return to Him and seek His forgiveness. The important thing is that we try. And Allah loves that you try. That's all He's looking for. He's not looking for perfection, not at all. He's just looking for you to try, for you to come back. And when you make mistakes, no problem. Absolutely no problem. You don't need to judge yourself like to the extent of like, oh, what's wrong with me, whatever. Even when you're taking yourself to account, all you say is you ask for forgiveness and you try again. That's it. And that's it. That's what it is. That's what being a human is that you make mistakes, you seek forgiveness, you understand, and you just keep coming back. And it's like a repetition. And it doesn't matter. As long as you keep coming back to Allah and you're sincere, like, you want to keep coming back. Because again, what do we keep saying? We say this in almost every class, is that we don't want to get to a point where we so like we have we have we just almost, we're not going to be perfect, but like, we're doing so amazing and we're not doing any wrong and we're just doing everything right and whatever, because that often will lead us to becoming arrogant, and we don't want to be arrogant. So when we keep trying and we keep failing and we just keep coming back and turning back to Allah and turning back to Allah, that keeps us humble and it keeps us sincere. And rather that than being great and then being arrogant, right? And we have so much standards for ourselves, and Allah is not looking for high standards. He's just looking for your sincerity, your consistency, that you keep coming back. Um, you know, and those moments are special when you keep turning back to Allah. At another level, since Allah is Al-Hasib, He also takes others to account. Another translation of this name is the reckoner for their deeds. Whether they are the most powerful people in the world who seem to act with impunity, or those who are weak and whose struggle seems unnoticed, Al-Hasib is not ignorant of them. Everyone will have to reckon with what they have done. So we all have to be accountable. And the other way to, to keep yourself accountable is just to often think about the day of Qiyamah, not to scare you, but even when you want to do something or, like you thinking, ask yourself, like, is Allah going to question me about this on the day of Qiyamah? And a lot of the times you'll see, like when it comes to certain things, like especially ibadah and stuff, like the extra, like if you do it, you'll be rewarded. But if you don't do it, Allah is not going to say, why didn't you do it? But how we are as people, our character is something that we will be accounted for. So that is always so much more important. And this is what we have to ask ourselves, like, okay, if this is how I act with this person. And sometimes we even need it because sometimes we think, oh, like I have to be like super nice to people all the time. They can like take advantage of me and whatever. And then you ask yourself, like, is Allah going to like question me about this? No, like then you think, no, he's not going to. Allah, he understands, he knows that, okay, yeah, I need a boundary. So a boundary is healthy. Like even for my boundary, yeah, he'll reward me because now I'm like showing like, I'm respecting myself because that's one of the things we don't do is respect ourselves. Like we disrespect ourselves so much. And that is something that we will be accountable for. We will be taken to account. Allah will question us about why did we, because Allah created us. So we have to look after ourselves first before we look after anybody else. But we put ourselves down to the ground, be a doormat, and let everybody, whatever, and just let people like dictate to you, abuse you, whatever it is. So those things we also need to think about, right? And it doesn't matter because culture told you, yeah, this is how you, and culture told you, oh, this is Islam. Islam told you you must be a nothing at all. But Islam didn't tell you that. What did Allah say? Allah wants you to honor yourself because He created you. So to show respect for yourself and not out of arrogance, but out of honor to Allah and out of gratitude to Allah for who you are and who He created you to be, you need to respect yourself. And everyone will be taken to account too. So a lot of times you think people are getting away with things. Oh, look at them, like they just keep getting away. They're doing so many things, but like they like no one is taking them to account. Like now, if you see, obviously, um, the Israelis, and then you see the US government, and you see all of this like world leaders, and they just do what they want, and like, you know, nothing. But Allah is watching and He knows all of it, and they will have to reckon with what they have done. They will be answered, and it's not going to last forever. Allah will break them for it. So nobody gets away. So a lot of people feel like, oh, people are just getting away, like I get a lot of messages like, oh, this people did this to me, that to me, this, whatever. And they just keep getting away and whatever. But this is why it's so important to know who Allah is, because then we understand that they're not gonna get away, even if it seems like they're getting away now. Now they may be getting away, but they're not going to. And even now, a lot of people you'll see, like if they continuously hurting people, whatever, deep inside, in the depths of their lives, things are not going right for them. Even if it's inside they don't have peace. And because they don't have peace, that's the worst thing that you can go through, is that you always, like so anxious and so insecure and things, but we don't see it because we don't know Allah. So we like, and then we get angry at Allah, like, why He's just letting them get away and I'm the one that's suffering it. But we need to know who Allah is, so we know that everybody is going to be accountable. People can be getting away, but they're not going to get away forever. Sufficiency. Another meaning of Al-Hasib is that He alone is sufficient. The general meaning is that He is sufficient for all of His creation, as He has created them, given to them, and provided them with all of the means to achieve the purpose for which they were created. He is also sufficient, especially for those who put their trust in Him. Allah says in the Quran, and whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him. فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. So, another meaning of Hasib is that Allah alone is sufficient. And Allah is sufficient for all His creation. Without Him, we are nothing. So He is sufficient for us in everything. Like, without Him, we'll be nothing. So we always need Him, and He is sufficient for us. We don't need Allah and need blah, 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 blah. We only need Allah. And from Allah, He gives you the means of everything else, but ultimately it goes back to Allah. It came only from Allah, not Allah and, but from Allah. This basically means that Allah will be enough for you in your worldly and spiritual matters. And if you have trust in Allah by relying on Him in your heart and constantly think well of your Lord, you will truly taste the meaning of this sufficiency. Thinking well of Allah means having a good opinion of Him in all situations. It means that when we are given good, we thank Him for His favors, knowing that they have come from a giving, generous, affectionate Lord. When we are tested, we show patience, knowing that the test is from the most wise, the forbearing, the merciful, the generous, the affectionate, and the sufficient. He is what we need during the trial. So if we trust Allah and we rely on Allah, we'll always taste that sweetness, the true meaning of Allah being sufficient for us. And we need to always have a good opinion of Allah. And again, how do we have? A lot of people struggle with this again because we don't know Allah. So as we learn about Allah, we understand, because now we understand that Allah is Kareem, He's so generous. But generous doesn't mean that He's only going to give you and give you and give you everything that you want. Generous even means that He's going to give you, He's sometimes not going to give you the things that you want because it's not good for you, because He is Al-Hakim, the most wise. He knows, and He's Al-Alim, the all-knowing. So He knows exactly, right? So when we know Allah, that's when we can have a good opinion of Him and we can trust Him. But when we don't, we struggle. And how many people struggle to trust Allah and to have a good opinion of Him? And it's just because of the lack of knowledge about who He really is. Right? So then we have a deficiency in knowing Allah. And as a result of that deficiency, we suffer a lot. We struggle to accept things. We struggle to come to terms with certain realities and things that happen in our lives. We struggle to surrender. We struggle to let go. We struggle with control. All of that just as a result from our deficiency of knowing who Allah is. Because even in the times that we tested, we need Allah. The test comes from Him, but we still need Him. But what does it really mean for Allah to be sufficient or enough for us? Think of the feeling that you get in your heart when you feel that what you have is enough for you. It could be knowing that all your financial needs are covered. You would feel tranquil and content. Or imagine the peace in your heart if you had someone in your life whom you felt was enough for you. He or she understood and loved you, and despite your troubles, truly sufficed you. You felt that you could handle anything with this person by your side. Now take a step back. Allah is telling you He is Al-Hasi. He is the sufficient. Trust in Him and He will be enough for you. It does not mean that you will not be tested, but it does mean that Allah will be enough for you to withstand whatever comes your way. And if you have trust in Him, that same peace and tranquility we describe will be multiplied even in the face of tribulation because you have Allah. Think about this. A 16-year-old boy was put in front of a fire. The fire was so huge that he had to be placed into a catapult in order to be thrown from a safe distance. This boy was the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, whose people wanted to burn him alive because he challenged their views on God and their way of life. Before he was thrown in, he said the following words with a heart full of conviction. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. Sufficient is Allah for us, and He is the best trustee. And then the response came from none other than Allah Himself, the sufficient. But we said, fire, be cool and safe for Ibrahim. They planned to harm him, but we made them suffer the greatest loss. And subhanAllah, Ibrahim alayhi salam, he said that one of the best moments in his life was the moment that he was in the fire. He felt so at peace and so tranquil, and it was his best moment. And that was because Allah was sufficient for him. Allah made. So Allah is sufficient for us in all. And like she mentioned here, think of when you have one person in your life that's sufficient. Think of children. They're so carefree, right? They're so carefree, they just, going about, like they have no worry because everything is found for them. Everything is sufficient. Their parents are sufficient for them. Whatever is there is sufficient. There's no lack. So they're good. They have no worry. They don't have worry about financial worry for food, for anything. They just go on, play, have the greatest time of their life because they feel sufficed. So in the same way, Allah is sufficient for us. But we have to understand that, and we have to know that, and we have to start believing it. So in the same way, it's like if you don't have any financial, like there's nothing, like you have enough for now to you set. You feel good. Like, you just don't have that worry, that burden, and Allah is sufficient for us in everything. We may have had small or great moments when we faced something unbelievably difficult, and yet our hearts were calm. The calmness came from knowing that Allah is there for us, no matter what. It came from knowing that the ultimate source of everything is Allah, and only He gives and takes away, And it came from knowing that Allah is sufficient because everything is from Him. It came from feeling that I have Allah and I have all I need. And this doesn't mean think about the time in your life. Maybe you went through a difficulty, but you knew. It doesn't mean that you calm because you know that Allah is sufficient for you. He's there. He'll get you through. But it doesn't mean you're not like you're not feeling it, like you're not stressed about what you're going through, you're not worried, you're not, if it's something painful, you're not hurt. You're going to still feel all of those emotions and feel everything, but that you're still going to have that calmness and that inner peace and contentment, knowing that, like, yeah, I'm feeling this way, but Allah is sufficient for me. Like, everything is going to be okay. He's going to take care of it, and He's going to take care of me. And subhanallah, like when I went through a divorce, no matter how painful it was, like I hate that. I just thought, I kept on thinking how, like, this is what Allah has decreed and what He knows is better for me. And as painful as it is, and like challenging as it is, I know He got my back. Like, I know it's all gonna be fine because Allah is there. Like, He is sufficient for me. He knows what I need more than I know. So for me, this can feel like uncomfortable, but He knows that it's better for me. And then with time, we all see that, you know, things work out. I I keep thinking about, even like, for little things, how we stress. We need to do something for tomorrow, whether it's a project or you need to get something done, or maybe you hosting people and you need to cook and like you're so stressed or whatever. And it's so funny that every single time, like maybe you've done this countless times before, but if every single time you still stressed out about it. But in the end, it all just works out. Everything works out. And I think to myself, like, why do we even stress? Because it's Allah who, like, He makes it work out. And why don't we recognize at the end, like, Ya Allah, like, I was so stressed, but you just, you know, made everything come together and you let me do what I needed to do, and whoever needed to stepped in, and like everything to always make it work out. And that is Allah. We need to recognize Him as well. Because we can still be a whole mess, thinking chaos, whatever, and then we get nothing done. But it's Allah's mercy and His generosity and just Him, that He is sufficient for us, that He brings it all together and He puts it all together, and at the end, everything is just works out perfectly. And then, but we don't even take a moment to even recognize or notice that, like, you know what, Ya Allah, this was you, like, you you brought everything together, like, thank you, or whatever. We even forget that we were even stressed. We're like, oh yeah, I was so stressed, but then you don't even take a moment to even, like, even just recognize how things went fine. Like, you just go on about your day and then go on about your life and completely, like, forget about everything falling into place or how it worked out or any of that. So think about a time that, like, we knew that Allah is sufficient for me, even if it's a hardship, but you know that Allah has my back. What may have had small or great moments when we faced something unbelievably, Training ourselves to have this conviction in times of ease or during minor difficulties will strengthen our hearts so that we feel the same conviction during larger tribulations. Allah tells us, those whose faith only increased when people said, fear your enemy, they have amassed a great army against you, and who replied, God is enough for us. He is the best protector. In this verse, people were told to fear because others had gathered against them. But instead of fearing, they said that Allah was enough, sufficient for them, and that He is the best protector. The next verse explains that what happened next. They returned with grace and bounty from Allah, from God. No harm befell them. They pursued God's good pleasure. God's favor is great indeed. We are advised to say those words said by the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam and the believers described above every morning and every evening in order to affirm them in our hearts and love by them. The Prophet ﷺ said that whoever says the following 7 times in the morning and evening, Allah will spare him what worries him. Sufficient is Allah for me. There is no God but Him. In Him I put my trust, and He is the Lord of the formidable throne. حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم. And in all the morning and evening adhkar, books or recordings or whatever, that's dua is the right, and then you read it 7 times in the morning and 7 times in the evening. When explaining the statement, we usually focus on Allah's name, Al-Wakil, the trustee, and we learn about tawakkul, relying on Allah. But that only accounts for the second half of the statement. The first half tells us that Allah is enough for us. This name reminds us where we should place our trust and our hope. It reminds us that there is no scarcity with Him. It reminds us that if we have Allah, we have everything. Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu is reported to have said that when he was faced with a calamity, he would thank Allah that the calamity was not in his religion. He valued his relationship with Allah because he knew that with Allah by his side, he would face whatever hardship came his way. Being with Allah meant that he could see beyond the hardship and indeed even see the blessing within it. SubhanAllah, major. So this is something that we should implement as well. That when we're going through a difficulty, we should actually say, thank Allah that, Ya Allah, thank you that it's not my iman, and it's not my relationship with you that is being tested and being challenged. It's something outside, and I still have you by my side to get through this. Because we don't know. And this is why we even read the dua that Ya muqallib al-qulub thabbit qalbi ala dinik, that oh turner of hearts, keep us steadfast on the religion, because we don't know when, at any time, if Allah can take it away from us. Or even if it's not Allah, like we can move away from it because of our own, experiences and things. And part of being a human and part of loving in dunya and just being a human, because everybody goes through trials. You can't only say the believer goes through challenges and tests. everybody goes through it, even the disbelievers, because we're human and it's normal. We somehow, in this current stage of life, we are in the time where it's like we have this culture where it makes it like, oh, people are not supposed to go through anything. Like we're supposed to be feeling good all the time. And if we're not feeling good, it's something wrong, and like we need to fix it immediately because we just need to be feeling good and we need to be feeling happy all the time. And no, that's not that's not like realistic. That's not it. This is not what the human experience is about. A human will always experience difficulties, even if you experience traumatic events, whatever it is. Yes, sometimes we need to go to therapy to help us to, overcome it and to accept it, because we struggle a lot. But we must always know what we've been through, even the traumatic experiences, whether it was with our families, our parents, whatever it is, it did happen to make us who we are. So we had to learn lessons from it and it had to shape us, and we just need to accept and learn from it. But a lot of times, because we even live in a culture now where it's like, oh, this was totally not acceptable. So now so many people are just, completely dismissing their parents and everything, like, oh, you did this to me and it was so wrong, and how could you, and whatever it is. Yes, as parents, some things parents shouldn't be doing, but ultimately, there is also your test from Allah, and there is lessons in it for you. So Allah put you with those parents, maybe they abused you, whatever they did, they didn't treat you well, which is not okay, but it doesn't mean that, like, you know, um, now it's the end of everything for us. Like, how could they be like that? Then how? Because again, Allah knows why He put you with those parents, and He knows what you needed to learn from it, how it was going to help you on your journey, what you need to do, what you need to take account for yourself, how you need to be. So everything, it's not random, right? But we don't condone it. We don't condone abusive behaviors and stuff. Like it's not okay. And we do validate that the experiences are not okay. But we also understand that it did happen and you can't change it. So now we just need to learn to accept it and see how we can basically recover from it and how we can be better and what needs to be done. How many people, they go through so much of traumatic experiences or whatever, and then what happens is they start helping other people who have now went through those experiences. So why did Allah put them through it? Because as a means of being a coach, like someone to help people now to in these situations, because they have experienced it. So ultimately, sometime later in our life, we understand why we went through what we went through, but we also don't become better, because and I think that's what I'm trying to say, because a lot of people, what happens is like they blame everybody so much that they become so bitter, and then they stop experiencing life and the joy of life, and it's just a cycle. Let's actually stop here, and then we will continue next week, inshallah. The marking. Don't forget. Okay, are there any questions? Anything anyone wants to add? Anything anyone wants to rectify? Please, if you're finding the classes beneficial, share it with others, encourage them to join, to listen to the classes. We really want to encourage more and more and more people to get to know Allah, and to get to know Allah, we get to know Him by our name, by His names. SubhanAllah, one sister told me, like, why do I share? And last week I also mentioned that, like, learn about Allah's names everywhere. Find every book that you can get, read through it, all the classes. So join this class. Currently, I am also listening to Sheikh Mikael Ahmad Smith's like classes of the names of Allah, and I have linked it in the group already. So just go back to last week and you can find all the ones I linked, because I linked Sheikh Mikael Ahmad Smith's class. I linked Hisham Abu Yusuf's names of Allah class, and Sheikh Amar Ashukari's names of Allah class. So those are the few that I know of. And it's very beneficial. And like I said, like, you get a different perspective from everybody's classes. Like, it's the same name with the same meaning, some of the same things, but there's so much more. So just to learn about Allah, there's so much. Everybody is talking about it in a different way, explaining it in a different way. And for us, obviously, we explain it here relatable to us as women, and, like, females, and in our, like, culture and our community, and like what we go through, and this is how we explain it. But then in the other classes, it's explained in a different way with different perspective, and it's so amazing. And that's why I say, like, learn about Allah more. So yeah, I'm really enjoying the classes that I'm listening to with Sheikh Mikhail. It's really beautiful. And so yeah, we want to encourage people to get to know more about Allah. So I was saying, like, a sister messaged me and she's like, why are you sharing so many of the classes, like, and the links, and it's all like male, like sheikhs, or like basically sheikhs who's doing the classes or whatever. And I didn't go into explaining to her whatever, subhanAllah, that, like, honestly, like, I struggle with responding to messages on a normal basis. But this Ramadan, I'm struggling way more. Like, I just don't have the capacity. But anyway, I told her, because she's like, no, like, your explanation that you're sending every day of the names is like, it's enough. Like, you don't need. And subhanAllah, I was just like, wow. So I said, no, like, we can learn different, like, and there's difference of opinions and things like that, whatever. But if you're not comfortable to listening with the other classes, I don't think she even realized that we doing this class anyway. Like, and I have the recognizing Allah class. I'm not sure. But when she said that small explanation is sufficient, I was like, oh my word. way, like not at all. It's definitely not sufficient. Like, subhanallah, no ways. A 3 paragraph, short paragraph, the write-up of the names is definitely not sufficient. Like, we can learn from so much, like I'm saying, from so many books, from so many different channels, and we're still not going to know Allah enough. But the more we learn, the more. So we want to encourage like more people to get to know Allah. That's the goal, inshallah. And when you share it, think about how amazing it is, because when we share anything that can benefit someone, we're getting the rewards all the time. So you share it with one person and you're like, and now they start to come to the classes or they start listening and they are benefiting, they've like seeing, and then they share it with more people and more people. And subhanallah, now people are getting closer to Allah, like they're getting to know Allah. So they more trusting of Allah, and that trust that someone maybe in a whole different country, someone you have no idea even exists, you don't know their name, you don't know nothing about them, you don't know that they exist, is like knows Allah now because you just shared it with one person, and then from there it got to you getting their reward, and the reward for their trust in Allah, for when they whatever ibadah they're doing from now knowing Allah is like you are one of the means, so you getting that reward, and that is just so beautiful. Like that's amazing. Like we can be doing nothing, you know, and this is the amazing part about Allah is sometimes maybe we're not doing nothing, maybe we're just sitting, chilling, drinking a cup of coffee, but in that moment we actually like we getting rewarded in some way because someone else is reading dhikr because you shared something about dhikr and now they reading their dhikr and you just chilling here, and you have no idea. And that's the beauty part of Allah. Like He's so Kareem that you won't even know. And that's the beauty part of even, sharing and encouraging others, inshallah. So let's help more people get to know Allah, inshallah. And may Allah grant us tawfiq and always and help us to know and recognize Him even more and more and more in every moment and accept from us all. May Allah Ta'ala keep you all in His light, love, protection, mercy, guidance, forgive you all, grant you all afiyah, khair, lutf, barakah, and a deep connection with Him. And take care, inshallah. Have a beautiful week. Keep me in your du'as. And until our next class, fi amanillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.